The rain started without warning, heavy and loud, turning the highway into a blur of gray. Claire tightened her grip on the steering wheel as the car shuddered once. Then again, a sharp sound came from under the hood, and the dashboard lights flashed like a warning she could no longer ignore. She eased the car to the shoulder, heart pounding, already knowing this was bad. Miles looked over from the passenger seat. He was taller than she remembered. Broader, too. His jaw set in that quiet way that always made her think he was holding more than he said. "That didn't sound good," he said, calm but alert. Claire let out a slow breath. "I think we're done," she said. The car died completely, rain drumming harder now. The road was empty in both directions, just trees and dark sky. They had been driving for 3 hours, heading north to settle paperwork for the house Claire had finally decided to sell. Miles had offered to come along, saying it would be easier if he helped. He was 26 now, long past the years when he had called her mom. She hadn't been his stepmother for 5 years. Not since the divorce, but some habits stayed with you. Claire reached for her phone. No signal. She tried again, then sighed. "Of course," she said softly. Miles checked his phone too and shook his head. Same. Rain soaked the edges of the road, the trees bending in the wind. The situation felt too quiet, too isolated. Claire hugged her arms around herself, suddenly aware of how far they were from anything familiar. Miles opened his door and stepped out, rain hitting him instantly. He lifted the hood and peered inside, water dripping from his hair. After a moment, he closed it and came back in. "I'm not a mechanic," he said, "but that's not something I can fix." Claire nodded. She wasn't surprised. So what now? He looked around, then pointed ahead. "I saw a sign about 10 minutes back. Small town, maybe a motel." Claire hesitated. The idea of walking in the rain with night coming fast didn't feel good. But staying here felt worse. "Let's do it," she said. They locked the car and started walking, rain soaking through their clothes. The road curved gently. The world narrowed to the sound of water and their footsteps. Claire felt every step in her knees, the cold creeping in. Miles slowed his pace to match hers without saying anything. A small kindness that made her chest ache. The motel appeared like a soft glow in the distance. A low building with a flickering sign that read Pine Hollow Inn. It looked old, but solid, like it had seen many storms. Claire felt relief wash over her as they stepped inside, warmth and the smell of coffee greeting them. The woman at the desk was older, with kind eyes. She listened to their story and nodded. "Storms knocked out a lot of lines tonight." She said, "You're lucky you made it here." "Any chance of 2 rooms?" Claire asked, already knowing the answer. The woman shook her head. "I've got one left. Queen bed. Or you can try the next town, but it's another 20 miles. Claire glanced at Miles. He gave a small shrug. "1 room is fine," he said. "We'll manage." Claire swallowed, forcing a smile. Yes. 1 room. They followed the narrow hallway to the room at the end. It was simple. 1 bed, a small table, a chair, and a window looking out at the rain-soaked parking lot. The hum of the heater filled the silence. Claire set her bag down and looked around, suddenly unsure where to stand. "I can take the chair," she said quickly. Miles shook his head. "Don't be ridiculous. We'll figure it out later." "Look frozen." She laughed softly. More nerves than humor. "I am." They both changed into dry clothes, taking turns in the small bathroom. When Claire came out, Miles was sitting on the edge of the bed, scrolling through his phone, his hair still damp. He looked up, and for a second, their eyes held. Something unspoken passed between them, a mix of familiarity and distance that made Claire's breath catch. She looked away first and sat in the chair, wrapping herself in her sweater. The room felt smaller now, the air heavier. She tried to focus on the sound of the rain, but her thoughts kept drifting. Miles broke the silence. "I didn't think it would be like this," he said. "Like what?" Claire asked. "Being alone." "Together," he said, honestly. After everything, Claire nodded. "Me neither." They had avoided each other for years, not out of anger, but out of caution. When she had divorced his father, lines had been drawn, even if no one had meant to draw them. Claire had stepped back, thinking it was the right thing to do. Miles had gone quiet, growing into his adult life without her. "I missed you," he said suddenly. The words hanging in the air, Claire felt her throat tighten. "I missed you too," she said. It was the truth, simple and heavy. He stood and walked to the window, hands in his pockets. "You were always there," he said. "And then one day you weren't." "I didn't know how to stay," Claire said softly. "I didn't want to make things harder for you." Miles turned back to her. "It did make it harder," he said, not accusing, just stating a fact. The honesty stung, but she accepted it. "I'm sorry," she said. "I really am." He studied her for a moment, then nodded. "I know." Another silence fell. This one deeper. The heater hummed. The rain continued. Claire felt the weight of the day pressing on her, exhaustion mixing with emotion. She stood and walked toward the bed, sitting on the edge opposite Miles. "We're adults now," she said, trying to sound steady. "We can talk." He smiled faintly. "Yeah, we can." They talked for hours about small things at first. Job, her plans, the places life had taken them. Laughter came easier than Claire expected, memories surfacing like old photographs. The tension slowly softened, replaced by something warm and fragile. At some point, the storm outside eased, the rain turning gentle. Claire realized how late it was when she yawned, covering her mouth. "I should try to sleep," she said. Miles nodded. "Me too." They both stood there, unsure of the next move. The bed suddenly felt like a problem with no clear solution. "I can sleep on the floor," Miles offered. "No," Claire said quickly. "You shouldn't." They looked at each other, a shared understanding passing between them. The past, the present, the closeness of the room, it all blended into something complicated. "We can just sleep," Claire said. "Nothing else." Miles met her eyes. "Of course," he said. "I would never." "I know," she interrupted. Gently, they lay down on opposite sides of the bed, a careful space between them. The light was turned off, leaving the room in soft darkness. Claire stared at the ceiling, aware of every breath, every movement. She felt his presence beside her, solid and warm, and memories stirred she hadn't expected. Not romantic ones at first, but moments of shared dinners, long talks, quiet support. Yet beneath that, something else began to surface. Something unfamiliar and unsettling. Miles shifted slightly, his arm brushing hers by accident. The contact was brief, but it sent a jolt through Claire's body. She held her breath, waiting to see if he would move away. He did, almost instantly, creating more space. "Sorry," he whispered. "It's okay," she whispered back. But it wasn't. Not really. Claire's heart was racing now, thoughts tangled and restless. She closed her eyes, trying to calm herself, telling herself it was just the strangeness of the night. Minutes passed, maybe longer. Sleep didn't come. Miles spoke again, his voice low. "Claire." "Yes, do you ever think about how things could have been different?" He asked. She hesitated. "All the time," she admitted. In the darkness, neither of them moved. The distance between them felt both safe and unbearable. Claire sensed that something fragile was forming in that quiet space. Something that could easily break. Outside, thunder rolled far away, a reminder that the storm wasn't fully gone yet. Inside, Claire knew this night was already changing things in ways she didn't yet understand. Morning came slowly, with gray light spilling through the rain-specked window. Claire woke first, her mind heavy with the restless thoughts of the night. She stayed still for a moment, listening to the faint hum of the heater and the soft sound of Miles breathing beside her. The night had been quiet, careful, almost too careful. And yet it left a lingering tension in the room. The kind that sits in your chest and makes it hard to think straight. She turned slightly to see Miles still asleep, expression relaxed, the tension from yesterday gone. Claire studied him for a moment, remembering the young boy he had once been, then the man he had become. There was something about seeing him here, stranded with her in this small motel room, that made the past and present collide. She shook her head lightly, trying to push the thoughts away, reminding herself they were adults now and boundaries mattered. After a few minutes, Miles stirred, blinking open his eyes. "Morning," he said softly. "Morning," Claire replied, forcing a smile. She got up to open the window slightly, letting in the fresh, damp air. The storm had passed, leaving the world washed clean, streets glistening, leaves dripping with water. "Looks like the rain finally stopped," she said. Miles stretched, running a hand through his damp hair. "Yeah, good timing at least. We don't have to walk in the rain again." Claire laughed quietly. Small blessings. They got ready quickly, changing into dry clothes, brushing their teeth, and packing up their things. The motel room felt different in the light of day, less intimate, less charged, but the events of the night were still there, unspoken but palpable. They left without breakfast, deciding to grab something along the road. Both eager to put the awkwardness behind them, yet neither fully able to ignore the connection that had quietly resurfaced. The car was still broken, and the tow truck had arrived to take them to a nearby garage. The driver was friendly, chatting about the storm and local traffic, but Claire barely heard him. She kept glancing at Miles in the passenger seat, noticing the way he seemed more relaxed, more himself. Their conversation was light, casual, a sharp contrast to the weight of the previous night. Still, the unspoken moments lingered, brushes of hands, shared smiles, and quiet glances that said more than words ever could. At the garage, the mechanic shook his head. "Looks like a blown gasket. Could take a couple of days to get the parts. You'll need a place to stay," Claire groaned. Inwardly, she looked at Miles, who shrugged. "We'll figure it out. We can manage a night or two." Claire nodded, though the idea of another night together in close quarters made her pulse quicken unexpectedly. They found another small inn nearby, one that was charming in a rustic, worn way. The clerk handed them a single room again, a queen bed, a small desk, and a window overlooking the quiet street. This time, the room didn't feel threatening, but it carried an air of anticipation. Claire placed her bag down and sat on the edge of the bed, glancing at Miles, who was already standing near the window. "I can take the chair again," she said, trying to sound casual. Miles shook his head, smiling faintly. "No, it's fine. Let's just make the best of it." Claire chuckled softly, feeling a flutter she didn't quite understand. She watched him walk over, the movement familiar and comforting. They settled into the room, unpacking quickly and deciding to order food rather than go out. The night was quiet, rain tapping gently on the roof, and the small space made it feel like they were the only two people in the world. Dinner arrived. They ate, sitting on the bed, a casual intimacy that was both comforting and dangerous. Their conversation drifted naturally about work, mutual friends, memories of the past. Miles laughed at a story from her childhood, and Claire felt her chest tighten with a warmth she hadn't expected. The laughter was easy, genuine, a reminder of years when they had been close without the awkward distance that life and circumstances had created. After dinner, they cleaned up and sat quietly, the night stretching ahead. Claire picked up her mug, feeling the warmth seep into her hands, and glanced at Miles. "Do you ever think about the past and what could have been?" she asked cautiously. Miles looked at her, his eyes soft. "Every day," he admitted. "But I also think about what we have now. We can't change the past, but we can choose how to move forward." Claire nodded, feeling the truth in his words. There was a sense of relief in admitting the feelings that had lingered in silence. In acknowledging the bond that had never really disappeared, they talked for hours, sharing memories, regrets, and small hopes for the future. The conversation flowed naturally, heartfelt and unguarded, and for the first time in years, Claire felt completely seen and understood. Eventually, the room grew quieter, the exhaustion of the day settling in. They prepared for bed, the tension of proximity tempered by respect and mutual understanding. Claire lay on one side of the bed, Miles on the other. The space between them comfortable yet charged with the subtle awareness of each other. Sleep was slow to come, filled with the mingling of memories and emotions. Claire thought about the years when she had distanced herself to protect both of them, and about the present, when circumstances had forced them back together. She realized how much she valued his presence, how much she had missed the quiet support, the laughter, and the moments of shared understanding. Miles, too, lay awake for a while, reflecting on the night, on the connection that had been reignited, and on the complexities of their relationship. There was no impulsiveness, no crossing of boundaries, only a careful, tender recognition of the closeness they shared. He realized that while the past could not be undone, the present offered opportunities to rebuild trust and companionship, to create a bond that respected both their experiences and the person each had become. Outside, the rain returned, a soft, persistent drizzle. The sound was soothing, a reminder that storms pass and new beginnings are possible. Claire drifted off finally, a sense of calm settling over her, knowing that despite the awkwardness, despite the past, there was a chance for connection and understanding between them. Miles fell asleep shortly after, feeling a sense of peace he hadn't known in years. The night had been unexpected, emotional, and revealing, but it had also brought them closer in a safe, meaningful way. The next morning, the sun broke through the clouds, casting golden light across the motel room. Claire and Miles woke refreshed, their conversation from the night before lingering gently in their minds. They packed their things, checked out, and headed back to the garage, their bond quietly strengthened by the shared experience, ready to face the days ahead together in a way that was caring, respectful, and full of understanding. The car was still broken, but Claire realized that some things in life like trust, connection, and understanding could be repaired too, with patience and care. And as they drove off in the tow truck, heading toward repairs and unknown roads, there was a sense of hope. A feeling that this one night in a hotel had reminded them both of the power of closeness and the possibility of new beginnings.